Mr. Speaker, may I continue?
Yes, please continue, Representative.
Mr. Speaker, I think I ended somewhere about you don't have to go to the moon to prove it's there.
Correct.
We have some evidence of an emerging curriculum, something that's being tested, something whose purpose, if you would look at, I believe it's page 2, and it's good curriculum, except it needs some nuancing in the interpretation of it, some clarification. The PONO Choices, as it is called, is a 10-module curriculum that provides young adolescents, and this is particularly the 7th grade, 12 to 13, when you reach puberty. That's the class that it's in now. It gives them knowledge, attitudes, skills that are necessary to reduce the risk of sexually transmitted diseases or sexually transmitted infections, STIs, and pregnancy. And it goes on in detail. The proponents of the developers of this are the Berkeley Policy Associates, Hawaii Department of Education, Planned Parenthood of Hawaii, and Alolike. If my colleagues would turn to page, I believe it's page 3, where it says what schools are being impacted, or let's say treated. This is where the experience of this curriculum that probably not too many people are aware of. It's Aliumanu Middle School, Highlands Intermediate, Hilo Intermediate, Iao Intermediate, Kapolei Intermediate. You guys can read it all. And the charter schools, Hawaii Academy of Arts, Sciences, Science, Waters of Life, et cetera, et cetera. The point is, Mr. Speaker, this thing is pretty well circulated, and it's on a pilot basis, which is good. They're going to basically measure the effects of it, et cetera. Now, this is probably good because kids need to know about sex. No question about it whatsoever. What may be questionable and what may be presumptive about it is when we go to the page 11. Everybody please go to page 11. Page 11 is when it actually meets at the student level when there are things called worksheets. The worksheets on the PONO Choices has a PONO relationships worksheet. If you look at the worksheet, it has 3 different scenarios. This is the case study method. The first 2 case studies are heterosexual and one is homosexual. Hey, no big deal.
Representative Johansson, will you yield your time?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I yield my time.
Thank you very much, Representative.
Thank you, Representative Johansson. No big deal. 2 heterosexual relationships, 1 homosexual. Well, okay, it's appearing, but then the category of the heterosexual relationships is categorized as, quote, unhealthy. Heterosexual relationships, unhealthy. It just happens that the homosexual relationship is called healthy. Is that a bias? Well, does that say anything? Well, maybe not much. But then, Mr. Speaker, and this is not a smoking gun, but when you get to the other worksheets, which I call YAMLs, I've been training entrepreneurs, and we always have YAMLs. We've done about 3,000 graduates in 10 countries. And YAML is the sacred thing, yesterday's most important learning. The equivalent of a YAML is a reflection square which was brought into the classroom here. Where it was, I have no idea. The learning of the day was as follows. Oral sex, mouth on genitals. Vaginal sex, penis enters vagina. This is the student saying what they learned that day. 3, anal sex, penis enters anus. Mr. Speaker, this is, again, it's not heavy, it's not a smoking gun, but it shows that something regarding what's going on in Massachusetts, what's going on in Canada, seems to be emerging, seems to be evolving, seems to be present in this curriculum. And it's something that the mother bearers say, hey guys, okay, same-sex marriage, okay, but let's not have it go into the school system. And I know somebody will stand up and say, well, look, we have an opt-out policy. There's some controversial things about some parents who have opted out of this. I'm not going to go into those details. They're doing it with the DOE probably now. But Mr. Speaker, we got to give the mama bears some breathing room. Ideally, this gives the body an opportunity to amend this bill and say, look, don't worry about it. We got your churches covered. We got your kids covered. Let's just get on with it. And if the vote maintains the same as it is, and without any amendments, these people are going to be very angry, Mr. Speaker. They're going to say, you listened to us, but you didn't do anything about it. So I just bring that curriculum as new information that I added the other day to my floor speech from where otherwise we amend where teachers can opt out, parents can opt out, and this is something that I heard very loud and very clear from the people of Hawaii. Mr. Speaker, I think we are compelled to pay attention. Otherwise, as some call it, a sleeping giant, mother bears who are looking after their cubs are mother bears looking after the cubs. And I didn't even mention the papa bears yet. I didn't mention the Tanari Ma'afalas and the others with great intensity want to make sure that what we're going to do is Pono, even though that's what they've called this thing. We got to do what's Pono. We got to unite these groups up here. We got to live with each other, people. We've got to get beyond this, I'm for, I'm against, you're this, you're that. We got to unite people, Speaker. We as leaders have to project this unity. We have to get legislation that doesn't tie those groups up there in court, or shouting at each other, or fighting at each other, or making bullying remarks to each other, or bullying their kids in school. Speaker, we got to address this issue on behalf of the Mama Bears. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative. Representative McDermott,
Yes, Mr. Speaker, to continue on to what my colleague was saying,
in support of the floor amendment.
in support of the floor amendment, but I will vote against the underlying measure, the bill, if it comes to the floor. Mr. Speaker, page 11, there are 3 scenarios as he discussed, and one of the 3 is a homosexual relationship. That would lead us to believe that 33% of the population, as it's being presented, are actually people who engage in homosexual behavior. Scenario 1 is unhealthy. It's a heterosexual behavior. It's described as unhealthy. Scenario number 2 is a male-on-male homosexual behavior, which is described as, quote-unquote, healthy by the student who took the class. So I'm not going to make any judgments, because who am I to judge? But I would refer the members to the National Institutes of Health to review the statistics on male-on-male sex and make their own determination if it is a healthy activity. Scenario number 3, the relationship is a heterosexual relationship, and it is considered abusive. So we seem to have a inculcation of our youth here. Now, granted, it's a pilot project, and I believe the parents were made aware of it prior, but this is the nose of the camel under the tent. And Mr. Speaker, we do have a current policy. Well, many people said it's not the curriculum. Well, this is a pilot project for future curriculum, and it misrepresents the behavior, in my view, and the quantitative analysis of the representation. But Mr. Speaker, we have a current policy in place on controversial issues. And much to the members' chagrin, I need to refer back to my Dick and Jane books. Now, they're not called Dick and Jane books anymore, but they're used as illustrations to amplify the curriculum contained therein. Mom and Dad getting in a car, spot the dog. The names and faces have changed, but the principles are the same, Mr. Speaker. Parents need protection, because it takes one individual who's adopted a child to file a lawsuit, a homosexual couple to file a lawsuit and say, you know, you don't have any illustrations of my family in any of these books. By not having our family in those books at the 3rd grade, the 4th grade, the 5th grade, the 6th grade, you are creating an environment where my child feels prejudiced. My child feels excluded. It's a hostile learning environment for my child. It takes one judge, just one, and I think, Mr. Speaker, we can find one here in Honolulu, who would say, you're absolutely right, and strike down the controversial issues policy and mandate that this type of curriculum is in our schools, and there is no opt-out. And if you go to the principal and say, I'd like to opt out, you will not be called by the principal, but you will be perceived in the community as a hater, bigot, homophobe. There's no opportunity to have an intellectual disagreement on this issue, Mr. Speaker. None. You're hater, bigot, homophobe, or ignorant. Those are the options you have. Trust me, I know they've been shared with me. So, Mr. Speaker, current curriculum doesn't have it, but here's a pilot project. The camel's nose is now under the tent. It's coming. If we don't institute protections, parents will lose their rights to this newly created civil right. Mr. Speaker, it takes one judge to do this. One judge. And anyone to say that it won't happen, I told you before, and I will tell you again, sir, I will bet my house, that within 10 years, this will be the case if this bill passes. There's no doubt about it, Mr. Speaker, none. In California, they actually mandate it, Senate Bill 48, they have to change all their books. They haven't done it yet because they don't have any money. But in their curriculum, they have to emphasize, if, say, a composer like Mozart, I don't know if he was gay, but if he was gay, it has to be part of the curriculum. Oh, he wrote these 9 wonderful symphonies, and by the way, he was gay, a homosexual male, and he made wonderful contributions. They actually want to publicize his private behavior. It's a private behavior, Mr. Speaker. It's not an immutable, benign genetic characteristic. Again, it is not an immutable, benign genetic characteristic. It's a private behavior. So, Mr. Speaker, the camel's nose is under the tent. The parents need protection. And I urge my members to support this for the parents, for their children. The evidence, it's right here. Please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative. Further discussion, members? Representative Takumi.
Mr. Speaker, I oppose this.
Oppose the floor amendment. Please
Just
proceed
two
in opposition.
comments. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just 2 comments before I get into the underlying amendment. Just a quick clarification about the judicial process in the state of Hawaii, and in fact in every state. If one judge in Honolulu, I guess, says that schools have to teach the homosexual agenda, my last reading of the judicial system in our country and in our state is that can be appealed, but I could be wrong. Second point is that I just hope, because the representative from Hawaii Kai made mention that although this resolution, this amendment was introduced a few days ago, we weren't on Olelo. And now we're on Olelo, so the people of Hawaii can see what the proceedings are about. I hope this doesn't set a precedent that unless it's on Olelo, amendments will be introduced so that people can see it even more. That's never been the policy of the House, and I hope that doesn't become the policy of the House. Now let me get to the underlying amendment. And I hate to repeat myself, but I will, that the department does have a policy, 2210.1, that very clearly states that at any time a school will teach a controversial subject, and I know it was brought up in one of the hearings, that if this bill should pass and it's legal, then it's normal, then it's not controversial. Mr. Speaker, let me remind you, abortion, whether some people like it or not, is legal in the state of Hawaii. It's legal, but it's still controversial. Birth control. Last time I looked, anyone can go to a drugstore and purchase the birth control of their choice. It's legal, even though some people believe that birth control contradicts their faith. It's controversial. And thereby, when that topic comes up in the public schools, parents have the right to opt out. The other reason why I think this floor amendment is problematic is because it's very narrowly constructed. It doesn't bring up what if a teacher or a parent or a student believes that evolution is not true. I believe in creationism. Can they opt out because there's no law, there's no statute? Mr. Speaker, again, the policy does allow a parent to opt out if and when a school teaches about evolution. Another reason is that the superintendent sent a response because obviously this, although it's not embedded in the underlying bill that we're going to be discussing later today, but she did want to clarify the department's policy. And let me just read to you what she said. The Department of Education confirms that it has a clear process for providing parents with notice when a controversial issue will be taught in a class. Parents and legal guardians are afforded the opportunity to opt out their children from such lessons. There are no plans to change that process. To further clarify, an issue may still be considered controversial based on multiple factors, including community and family opinions, whether a matter may be quote-unquote legal or not. I made reference to that with the issue of abortion. And lastly, what's problematic about this amendment is I feel for the colleagues on the floor that even though they support this, if they support this amendment and there is a House Draft 2, the language in here on page 9, line 5 to 8, legalizes same-gender marriages. So if you are opposed to that but support this, and you vote for this, unfortunately, you are also supporting all the parts of this bill, which does legalize same-gender marriage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Further discussion? Representative McDermott, second time.
Speaker, yes. Thank you. We're making progress, Speaker.
Still in opposition.
Still in opposition.
Still in support of the
Still in support of the amendment, but I'm going to vote against the underlying bill. But since my colleague informed me, you won't need my vote anyway because you already got 30, so that's good. But, Mr. Speaker, it's to help you out. Mr. Speaker, we've got acknowledgement. It can be appealed. For the first 2 weeks of this, oh, it'll never happen, it'll never happen, it'll never happen. You're crazy. It can be appealed, Mr. Speaker. An acknowledgement that it is possible to happen. In fact, 30 years ago, the very idea of same-sex marriage was crazy. Today, we're on the brink of legalizing it. Mr. Speaker, it can be appealed. Now, I don't have much faith in the governor, to be honest with you, Mr. Speaker, pulling out all the stops, getting that legal team fired up, and providing the protections we're seeking. Just don't have that warm fuzzy, Mr. Speaker, about that. I just don't have it. And with regard to the introduction of amendments and speaking, and although some may seem repetitive, Mr. Speaker, sir, you've never accused me of brevity or lack of loquaciousness, have you, sir, on second or third reading, or my friend from Hawaii Kai. In fact, Mr. Speaker, we are consistent. Second reading, third reading, we've always done it. So we're not playing to the cameras. But, Mr. Speaker, the folks at home watching this need to know that your members, who you send here, are voting down parent protections. They see the curriculum, they brush it off. Well, it's never going to happen. Here's the camel's nose under the tent. Well, it only takes a lawsuit. It'll never happen. Well, you can appeal it. We can rely on the governor to appeal it. We're getting pretty close to an admission this is going to happen. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Representative.
Mr.
Further
Speaker?
discussion? Representative Brower.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One, from reading the answers of the
In
student...
support or in opposition? Of
In
the floor
opposition,
amendment?
Mr. Speaker.
Opposition, please proceed.
One, I have my questions that the student may have been gay who filled out the survey, but written on page 11, previous speakers said that a heterosexual couple was checked off as unhealthy, but when you read the example, the reason the student checked unhealthy is because Alexander bought earrings for Mia as a way to have sex with her, and they were about to have unprotected sex, and the student listed this relationship as unhealthy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative. Further discussion? Representative Oshiro, followed by Representative Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll be rising to speak against this floor amendment.
Against the floor amendment, please proceed.
Yeah, against the floor amendment because it concerns me that it still contains some defective language that is still seemingly taken out of the Senate Bill 1, House Draft 1. Let me just draw your attention to the provisions in 7. Let's go to page number. Let's go to. It's all over the place here. Okay. Let's go to page. Let's go to page 5 first of all. Page 5 on lines 11 to 16, section 572.c, reliance on federal law. Any law of the state that refers to or adopts or relies upon federal law shall apply to all marriages recognized under the laws of the state, as the federal law recognizes such marriage in the same manner as the laws of the state, so that all marriages receive equal treatment. The concern that's raised there is whether or not we are delegating our state authority over the jurisdiction of our marital laws and all related matters pertaining to marriage, property, trust, custody, support, etc. And that's a concern I raised there. It's still in this. It's in this bill right here. The refusal language also contains so-called protection for the religious believers who do not choose to solemnize a marriage. I turn your attention to page number 6, lines 7 to 9. Marriage shall be immune from any fine, penalty, injunction, administrative proceeding, or any other legal or administrative liability for the failure or refusal. Again, I raised that concern, and it seems to reflect the same language in Senate Bill 1, House Draft 1. What it fails to do, although it appears to provide protection from any fine, penalty, injunction, administrative proceeding, or other legal or administrative liability, what it fails to do, Mr. Speaker, is to provide protection from any civil claim, cause of action, or state action that might cause the fine, penalty, or injunction. In other words, this section here deals with any foreseeable penalties or imposition of any fines or other adverse consequences, but it does nothing to forbade or prevent a claim or cause of action from arising both from a government agency, the government itself through state action, and or commission or administration, public or private. And that's replete through this in other areas where you have the so-called protections or immunities contained in this draft. Let's go down the bill further to Section 7 on page 12 and 13. This is on page 13 again. This deals with the issues of solemnizations to join persons in civil unions. The same defect here again. It deals with the so-called sanctions elements of the penalty or violation, but it is nothing about the cause of action, claim, state action, again, to enforce the laws. It appears again on page 16, top. Again, it says, this is under the section religious organizations, exemption under certain circumstances. Top of page 16, lines 3 to 4, shall be immune from any fine, penalty, injunction, administrative proceeding, or any other legal or administrative liability to failure or refusal. Again, it misses the key words that's contained within the whole Connecticut law and most other laws dealing with this issue of the civil claim or cause of action or state action that could come against a violator of these sections. So those are some of the areas on that. I also have grave concerns, Mr. Speaker, on page 19 of this draft here, section 12, and this is a question that's come up before in other proceedings. The Department of Health may, in its discretion, make any changes that it deems necessary to internal procedures or forms to aid in the implementation of this act. A concern that's been raised is whether or not this is an unlawful delegation of authority to a department that lacks sufficient guidelines and restrictions or limitations upon the authority that the Department of Health has, and not to go to the normal challenges of rule
Representative
promulgation.
Takayama, will you yield your time?
Mr. Speaker, I yield my time.
Representative Wana, thank you.
Thank you, Representative from Nanakuli. Yeah. The problem here is that this might be a way of eviscerating the normal channels of rule propagation through the public hearing process under Chapter 91. This gives the full measure and complete discretion to the Department of Health. I think it also might bypass the system that we've set up years ago, whereby the rules or proposed rules will go through the small business advisory, group that looks at any rules that may affect or have no effect upon the businesses. So it's for those reasons, Mr. Speaker, that I object to this draft. Well, there's one more also, Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry. This is section, I believe it's section 9. I think that also is in the, section 10 in this. Section 10 in this bill, page 17, it's the jurisdiction of the family court that's expanded to give unique rights to same-sex couples who had their marriage solemnized in Hawaii but may not be currently domiciled or residents in Hawaii, to access our family courts and have their marriage annulled, dissolved, or even a separation order pronounced upon that within the requisite domiciliary or residency requirements that we normally afford and require for family court petitioners in this matter. There's some serious constitutional questions that have been raised by the expert from the, BYU University who came in, Professor Wardell, who spoke against the probable constitutional problems or even due process concerns raised by this provision here. So for those reasons, Mr. Speaker, I strongly object to this floor amendment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative. Further discussion, members?
Mr. Speaker.
Representative Saiki?
Go over a short recess.
Short recess. Recess, members.